Do we have any kids here today that would volunteer to come up and help me for a second? It's really easy. And I know this isn't up on the screen for a children's sermon, but if anybody want to come and help, it's super easy. Come and help. Just a couple. And there's candy involved. Oh, I got a couple. All right, you guys can just stand over here. We'll wait. Okay, I want you guys to tell me, who is this guy on here? Who's that? The Grinch. Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
Bad guy.
He's kind of a bad guy, isn't he, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, but what happens at the very end? He's kind of a good guy. Do you know, why does he turn into a good guy?
Because he has a bigger heart.
He has a bigger heart, right? And he feels that people actually love him and care for him at the very end, right? So guess what I found? What are these? Are they Hershey's Kisses?
Yeah.
They're Hershey's Kisses. And so every one of these, look at that, has a little Grinch guy. Will you guys each take one of these baskets?
Yeah.
Okay, not just for you though. You can take one, but what I want you to do is pass them around the aisles to everybody, okay? And everybody can take one, and then at the very end, just bring them back up here, and, well, actually, you can just set them right down there, but just kind of pass them through while I get started, okay? And then listen, because at the very end of my sermon, I'm going to talk about the Grinch. So then you'll listen, right, the whole time? Okay. All right, you guys can go ahead and just kind of give it to someone and then kind of help pass all that candy out. And everybody can take one. In today's gospel text, Jesus reveals to his disciples that the great temples of Jerusalem are going to be destroyed. Now, the temple in Jerusalem was thought to be stronger and more permanent than anything. But Jesus said, "Not one stone will be left here. All will be thrown down." He also tells them that there will be wars, earthquakes, and famine throughout the land. He could have thrown in plagues and a pandemic because that was probably happening too. So was an actual physical temple destroyed? Yes. But Jesus was also talking about other temples that we build that would inevitably be destroyed. We all build temples for ourselves. We build relationships, businesses, careers, dreams, beliefs. These are the temples that give our lives meaning and purpose. Whether we map them out on paper or just in our minds, we all have them. And more than likely, you have had one of them destroyed at some time in your life. I watch a fair amount of Forensic Files, Dateline, and other crime mystery shows. I think I missed my calling as a detective or forensic scientist. Every now and then, they accuse the wrong guy. And I say guy because 9 times out of 10, it's a guy. The wrong guy gets accused, and it doesn't take long for his name to be dragged through the mud. The media has a heyday. Everyone hates him. Even if days or weeks or months later he's declared innocent, it's too late. His reputation is already destroyed. A destroyed reputation is a very hard temple to rebuild. Think of someone who's dealt with identity theft. If you have, you know it's an absolute nightmare. It can take months or even years to fix the issues and rebuild your credit. A financial temple destroyed in a few clicks of a mouse. I just read about one of my favorite actors, Hugh Jackman. He and his wife Deb just built their dream home in East Hampton. It took them 6 years. She had an inspiration book where she kept all her ideas and used that book to build the house. In an instant, fire, tornado, earthquake, hurricane could topple those painstakingly built walls. I was told recently that if I'm up here doing pulpit supply, I should come up with a story about Western North Dakota and cows to tie into my sermon. I racked my brain and I couldn't come up with anything until yesterday. We were just out in Watford City for a quick weekend, and yesterday my brother asked if we could help move cows. Normally, this would be an easy, quick excursion involving a tractor, a bale, and a few people in pickups and Rangers. The cows were supposed to follow my brother, who was driving slowly and carrying a bale to entice the cows to follow him. We'd get the cows to the gate, and once there wasn't any traffic, we'd push them across the road into a different pasture. It's maybe 30 yards to get from one gate to another. I was on ditch duty along with my sister-in-law. My dad was out in the field in a side-by-side, and Greg and Gage were in a pickup following behind. The cows were coming along so nicely, right up until they got to the first gate. And then all of a sudden, something spooked them, and off they went. Some went south, some went west, some headed for the hills. None of them went where we wanted them to. And I thought, if this isn't a metaphor for life, I don't know what is. Just when you think things are going along smoothly, something unexpected can throw a wrench in your plans and send it all south, like the cows. And yes, we did eventually get them across the road, but it took much longer than expected. Over the past year and a half, I'm guessing many of you, or people you know, have had many temples destroyed and wrenches thrown in your plans because of COVID and its effects. Think of all the people who have lost businesses and careers, whose relationships were destroyed because they couldn't agree on how to handle masks or vaccines, kids in school. Dreams were shattered, homes were lost. All you had to do was tune into the news or hop on social media for about 10 minutes to see the worldwide destruction from COVID. Jesus predicted all of that during his time, and he predicted it for us in our time. So what are we supposed to do? Well, Jesus told his disciples, do not be alarmed. Jesus tells us to not be alarmed or afraid, but to be faithful and watchful and not be led astray. He wanted his disciples then and his disciples now, which is us, to know that we can be alert, open, and watchful for all the signs of God at work in the world and for what is not of God in the world. We can expect trouble, but expect Christ more. Expect that we are not alone in the face of any trouble. When our dreams fail and disasters come, and we find ourselves against a wall or looking into darkness, we may be at the end of our rope, but God is still there. We are not alone. Christ is with us. We are promised the help of the Holy Spirit, and we are given one another. In our reading today from Hebrews, provoke one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together, but encouraging one another. Christ is present as we reach out to one another, when we reach out to serve any who are suffering, and especially when we reach out in times of trouble. God tells us, be watchful for signs of God at work in the world. Where do we see this in our own community? I see it everywhere. In the Kindness Rocks projects that our Sunday school kids and Bio Girls program have done, in our food pantry, in the trick or treat around Maple Manor, in the haunted house to raise funds for Frostfire. Those are all signs of God at work in our own community. God is at work in our church and congregation. Do you know who puts all the information into the computer for the screens we read off every Sunday? Do you know who's at the computer clicking through them Sunday morning? When there's a water leak, who is putting out buckets and mopping up the mess? Who's leading our children in Sunday school and getting them ready for the Christmas program? Who keeps our flowers and outside areas looking nice every summer and fall? Every one of those people are sitting among us right now. Signs of God at work in our church and congregation. Where else do I see it? Around the world and our own country, in the latest edition of Reader's Digest. In an article titled, "The Nicest Places in America." Where are the nicest places? Well, one of them is Kodak Tennessee. I'm just going to read this short excerpt. Winter storms aren't unheard of, aren't unheard of in eastern Tennessee, but the one that hit Kodak in December of 2020 proved historic. People across the region fell asleep on Christmas Eve, dreaming of a white Christmas. But the holiday brought dark clouds and plunging temperatures. As the wind picked up, trees fell, taking down utility lines. Snow blew, pipes froze, and power and phone service went out. More than 44,000 Tennesseans would wake to find themselves celebrating Christmas without electricity. The Hundley family was among them. For 2 nights, they slept in their truck. After 58 hours without power, they'd had enough. It was time to move to warmer quarters. The only problem, there was no room at the neighboring hotels. Dozens of hotels line the highway, but many hotels have a policy against renting rooms to local residents. So their truck was looking like the only option. That is until Michelle Hundley stumbled across a Facebook post from the nearby Quality Inn. Hello, neighbors. If you are affected by the power outages, please call us at the Quality Inn. We will take care of you. Michelle said they greeted us, asked how they can help. We didn't have anything. We couldn't afford anything. They didn't have to do what they did. As the new year approached, hundreds of area homes were still without power. The owner let everyone know they had a friend out by the highway. Looking for a room, he'll try to supply one. In need of a shower, bring your towels. Facebook testimonials started pouring in. From one person, it's a blessing to know that in the midst of darkness, there are still caring, thoughtful people that help in time of need. You will never go hungry even if you don't have food, said another person. One other story came from a place called Manton, Michigan. Also Christmas Eve of 2020. Winters can be long and tough this far north. Add the COVID-19 pandemic, and Scott Chittle knew something had to be done to bring some cheer to the 1,500 people who call Manton home. He decided to build an ice rink. He smoothed out a 3,000 square foot section of his yard. It wasn't long before Chittle's backyard became a Manton hotspot. The smell of grilled hot dogs and burning firewood filled the air. Lights strung over the ice added sparkle, and the laughter and shrieks of children playing hockey or performing figure eights made their parents smile. For Chittle, the ice rink was always about more than kids blowing off steam. It was about surviving even the darkest times. I want to show the rest of the world what a little effort, the best intentions, and community can do, not only for others, but for the souls of all. Both of these stories happened around Christmas, and I couldn't help thinking of my favorite Christmas movie, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The Grinch was waiting gleefully to hear the sounds of crying and wailing when the Who's down in Whoville woke up and found all their Christmas presents and food and decorations were gone. But instead, he heard them singing. Despite COVID and the winter blizzard and no electricity and nowhere to go, people came together and helped one another in Kodak, Tennessee, and Manton, Michigan. Times of trouble are upon us. They will always be upon us. Let us be the signs of God at work in the world. Amen.